Namaste, beautiful souls. It's Dr. Danny, physician astrologer. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are having a magical day and living your best life. How is everybody out there? I am surprisingly well for someone who has not slept all night. I did work last night. I've been working a lot the last couple of weeks, but hopefully the next couple of weeks I will not be. So today we have a very interesting and amazing presentation. If you are not already amazed at how the cosmos works, about how um, energy works, about cycles and vibrations, about synchronicities, about magic, if you're not already amazed about how all of that works, by the end of this, you will. I am going to give you guys some very important dates for 2025 that I've derived astrologically, mathematically as well. Okay. And I will go through it step by step. But what I'm going to do for those of you that do not like math, that do not like to kind of see how things are derived, I'm going to give you the graphic right off the bat and show you the important dates. And for those of you that want to dive in and see where all this data comes from and what you can do with it, then you'll absolutely love this presentation. So I'm excited to be back. It's our first live after the new year. I've been sick the last few days. I got sick right around New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and it came on so fast. It was amazing. And but I'm doing better now. I'm about 90%. So I think once I get a good night's sleep tonight, I should be good to go. So let's see who's here. All right, we have Ultimus, thank you for coming. Thanks for the sound check. Diana from Mexico, hello, good to see you. And Lori from Washington, Happy New Year. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. Tracy Myers, hello, you beautiful soul. Brian Hardy, hello. Lady Rocks, hi, Dr. Danny. Sean 55, hi everyone. Lady Rocks hates math but loves numbers. Yeah, it's more numbers. It's more numbers than it is math, but we're going to go slow. We're going to walk through it. I think you guys will really, really like this presentation. I think you'll be really, really blown away. There are some very big dates coming. There's some very unique alignments that are coming in March of this year, and I will show you why. And it's based on the numbers pi, phi, the fine structure constant, and the combination of pi and phi. And what I've done is over the last couple of years is I've touched on everything that I'm going to touch in this presentation in other topics. So a lot of it is just pulling it all together into one glorious, beautiful presentation. And the graphic that I prepared, some of you may have seen that on my Facebook group or on the post I just did on the YouTube community. That took me about 10 hours to put together. And I started with just a sheet of graph paper. Actually, it wasn't even graph paper. It was just a 11 by 17 sheet of printer paper that I started doodling on, and I drew a timeline. And I came home from work the other day and I showed my husband. I said, look, this is what I'm doing. And I drew a spiral around it. And he's like, what are you talking about? So I got graph paper and I put all my thoughts on it, and then I put it into a graphic in my graphic software so that it could be legible and understandable by you. And while I've been putting this presentation together, I swear I've had the great philosophers, mathematicians, and astronomers haunting me, moving through me, because as much as I've wanted to like sleep and get better, this presentation is just it's something that's been wanting to come through and come out today. So forgive me if I'm not 100% my normal perky, bubbly self, but I hope you guys will really enjoy this. So let's see, who do we have? We have 22 already. That is a beautiful number. That's a beautiful number. Let's see. Let me think. What can I update you guys on? Stellar Foundations. We're doing good. We have 11 enrolled right now, including my mom. So I'm very excited. I just ordered the software for you guys. So you should be getting an email from Mastering the Zodiac on how to set up and download your software if you've just enrolled. Tomorrow is the last day for early bird enrollment, and you can do a 12-month payment program, 6 months, 3 months, however you want to do it. If you've already gotten classes from me, or if you already have the software, reach out to me soon so that we can get you in that class and I can discount your price. If you guys don't want my modules, like if you're not interested in the course material, perhaps maybe you're studying on your own or you already know a little bit of astrology, but maybe you want to get in on the Stellar Foundations group and study with us, or maybe you need software and you want to start getting serious and you want to have a community. I am going to be offering a program probably next week or the week after, where if those of you are interested, you can do that, and it will be a monthly subscription. So stay tuned for that. I'll be posting about that. All my links are below. So if y'all want to, work with me, study from me, uh, let me teach you, help you, guide you through this process, they're all below. So do check that out. What else was I going to tell you? My memory is not so good because I haven't been sleeping very well and I've been on cold medicine. So if I don't have a whole lot of announcements today, I'm pretty sure you guys won't mind. So, all right, let's see. Who else do we have? We have Brenda. Thank you, Brenda. I'm 90%. The Z Pack hooked me up. So, all right. Very good. Okay, you guys look happy, and we are about 6 minutes in or so. So let's just do a little bit of looking around the sky real quick. I want to just show you some cool things that are going on, and then we will dive into the presentation. So let's share entire screen. Share. Oops, I got to click that. There we go. Okay, the first thing we need to look at is why this website's not working. Let me reload that. There we go. Okay. This is the sky right now. So I hope you all are watching Venus, because actually the night sky is really beautiful right after sunset, you guys. If you look up in the sky tonight, if you have a clear sky, you're going to see Venus as the sun is setting, Jupiter, Mars on the horizon, and the moon. So if we look just a couple hours later, look at that. All these gorgeous planets and stars in the sky right before bedtime, at least where I live. So hopefully you guys can get outside and gaze at the sky, because it is beautiful. Orion's out, Sirius is out, Jupiter's out, Mars is out, the moon is out, Saturn is out, and Venus is out tonight. So get out there and stargaze, y'all. It really connects you to the work that you're doing with astrology, because this is what the ancients did. I mean, if you can imagine yourself, millennia ago, after the sunset, there was no light pollution. There was no electric light anywhere. So we gazed at the sky. We had people that literally stayed up all night and watched and calculated the movements of the stars. And when you're staring at the sky, you get sort of a perspective of your place in the universe and where you are. And all the problems in your life just kind of seem a little bit smaller when you realize that you're part of this grand and glorious symphony of the universe. So that having been said, our sun has been misbehaving, guys. I think that's why a lot of people are feeling a little sick. But this guy right here, the sun, have you seen the solar flares? I know some of you are feeling it. This is the past couple of days right here. If you go to spaceweatherlive.com, it updates you every 15 minutes, and it puts the time in UTC time. So I'm -6 UTC time, so I can see when these flares hit. So this was Saturday, January 4th, at 12:50 UTC. So I'm -6 from that, and it was 6:50 in the morning, yesterday morning before I went to work. So we had this nice X-class solar flare, and then over the course of the day, bam, 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 6 more M-class flares. And this is peak activity. This is all picking up. Look at this. This is crazy. If you guys want a really good update on the sun and its electromagnetics and its forecasts, Stephen Burns, he's the space weather forecast guy. He's got a great channel out there. I recommend you go listen to his updates. They're very, very interesting. He also does meditations. Just a really interesting guy, and a rising star. I think we'll see a lot of him. So when these solar flares go off, we get spikes in the Schumann resonance. So look at that. Bam. So these are all these X flares right here. And it just drains you. It upgrades you. People get ascension symptoms. They feel like they're ringing in the ears. Whenever we have a X-class flare like this, I can hear it. It's like this high pitched wee, It lasts for about 15 minutes and then it stops. So I don't think it's hearing loss. I think it's literally this solar activity. What's also interesting is you guys know I love astronomy too. So we've got this concept called aphelion and perihelion. And all that means is that because Earth's orbit is elliptical, we are sometimes closer to the sun and sometimes farther away from it. And right now, we are the closest to the sun that we are in our yearly cycle. So we are about 2 million miles closer to the sun right now while it is in the peak of its solar flare activity. um, so you guys down in Australia are getting the summer and the brunt of this hot, close sun. Um, so I thought that was really, really interesting. All right, let's see. I want to dive into this presentation, but I want to make sure that I see how many are here. Good. Okay, 31. We're getting up there. Some of you guys may need to watch this twice. I'm not going to lie. This is a really, really complicated presentation. One of the things that I'm really good at is taking complex topics and distilling them down into their simplest form in a way that you will come away with wonderment and amazement and wanting to know more. I'm going to give it all to you, but also just going to give you the high points that you need to take away from this, okay? So let's see, who else do we have? We have Bernd Wasserlascher from Germany. Hello, thanks for coming. Christine Cardoza's here. Hello. All right, very good. All right, y'all ready to get into this? This is going to be so good. I'm excited. I'm excited to get Leonardo da Vinci off my back and out of my ear. That's the real reason. Let me get this set up and we'll go. All right, share screen. Dates to watch 2025. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. So, predictions in astrology. We're going to observe some cycles of heaven during this discussion. I'm also going to talk to you about pi and phi and the fine structure constant, also known as the Phoenix constant. For those of you that don't like math and just came here for the 2025 dates, here are your dates. I know this looks like a lot. Please don't click off. Please stay with me. All right. The key dates you need to look at here is this one right here, 322. This is a very important date. This is the peak of the current Venus cycle. She will be in retrograde, close to the sun, and affecting Earth's gravity and going through a death, birth, and rebirth process. We also have our solar eclipse right here, right next to each other. Okay. And then at the same time, we've got Mercury retrograde. So we've got 2 retrograde planets and a solar eclipse all at the same time. All right. Now, a lot of these dates overlap. And what you'll notice here is that there are 2 kinds of dates here. We've got dates that we know because of astronomy and astronomical observations. So we know when the solar eclipse is. We know when the lunar eclipse is. We know when Venus is going to be at her maximum eastern elongation, when she's going retrograde, when she'll be at the peak of retrograde, the direct and the maximum elongation. I spelled elongation wrong right there. Twice. Oh my gosh. Okay. We also know about Mercury's dates. We know when Mercury will be at these certain inflection points. We've gone over all of this in my previous talks. If you guys want to check out some of my previous lives, I go over Mercury in retrograde. I believe the Capricorn Venus transits, I went into the Venus cycle in great detail. We'll review a little bit of that here, but I'm not going to go deeply into it because I want you to stay focused on this timeline and what's coming for us. So there are dates that we just know based on astronomical observations, and that's the solar and lunar eclipse, the retrogrades, okay? But what's not immediately apparent from understanding these dates is the calculated dates. I've got things on here called eclipse points. I've also got these numbers here that look eerily familiar to the Fibonacci sequence. In fact, they are. And I've also got these dates here. Look, we have a couple palindromes for those of you number lovers. And I am going to show you exactly how I calculated these dates and why they are important. Okay. And it is part of phi, pi, and the fine structure constant. If we understand these and their relation to the astronomical energetics, then we can get a pretty accurate prediction of when energies are going to shift. So you're getting a lot of astrologers coming to you, and or just people in general, channelers, mediums, people that have other ways to predict things, saying these things might happen in 2025. These are the themes of the year for 2025, but they don't give you a precise when. And I think that if you use these numbers, if you use the astrology and the orbital mechanics and the celestial mechanics and the astronomy of our solar system, you can pinpoint exactly when some of these things may happen. Okay, so this is your graphic. If you don't want to get into the math, you guys, here it is. Go ahead and take this, screenshot this, and keep this for your own keeping. Put this on your own calendar and just watch what happens. So the first thing that I want to talk about with you are the eclipse points. Okay, so these, I took everything else off except for the lunar energy. That way we could just sort of focus on these particular dates in general. And what these dates indicate are when the moon will be in Pisces at 19 degrees in a constellational sidereal chart. All right, now if we want to know what degree that is for tropical, if you guys are tropical followers, I will do that for you real quick. This is a spreadsheet that my friend Julie put together. She's a brilliant mercurial type of person who loves to categorize and organize. And I just appreciate her so much for doing this because it really has helped me. So the point we're looking at is right here. So if you're studying tropical, 9 degrees Aries is the same exact spot in the sky. And why the two are different, that's not the subject of this talk. I have other lectures where we go into that, and I may even do a complete live just on that someday. But if you guys are following tropical, 9 degrees Aries is where you're going to go. But from here on out, we're going to refer to the true sky at 19 degrees, because if we're doing math, if we're doing calculations, if we're trying to be precise, we want to point to the exact spot in the sky where it's happening. So 19 degrees Pisces is where the March solar eclipse is going to occur. Okay. What these dates indicate for us are when the moon will be in that exact degree again. Okay. So this tomorrow is the third eclipse point prior to the eclipse where the moon will be at 19 degrees Pisces. Okay. So tomorrow we'll be at that eclipse point. So what will that mean for me, Dr. Danny? Well, that basically what you have to do is find out where Pisces is in your chart, and 19 degrees specifically, or if you're using tropical, where that Aries degree is, and look at what house that is. What area of your life is that? And that's where you need to work and focus. You need to feel into those energetic themes. What's happening tomorrow? And that may give you an idea of what this eclipse may feel like for you. All right. Eclipse points typically are stronger at the square energies, which is 3 months out. So this might be a pretty impactful day. We'll also feel similar energy on the other side of this eclipse approximately 3 months later. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you. There's this pattern that occurs with eclipses. And the reason it works is because solar eclipse trigger events and they flush out unresolved issues. And what's the moon? The moon is emotion. What's emotion? It's energy in motion. Okay. It's usually within 2 or 3 degrees of the orbs. And again, the square energy is really, really important. And the key transits are typically 3, 6, 9, and 12 months out. But why do eclipse points work? Well, because these eclipses are powerful phenomena, they cause temporal reverberations. And for those of you new to my channel, please go back and listen to my lecture on timelines and portals, because time is not linear. We experience it linearly, but energetically it's not. It ripples outward in all directions, in all dimensions, okay, through space-time. So if you were to throw a rock on a on a two-dimensional surface of water, you would get ripples outward. But if we're thinking about energy and we're thinking about shadow time and we're thinking about thought forms and emotions, this is more of a 3 or 4-dimensional rippling outward. And it goes forward and backward in time for us. So it's acausal. All right. And so this will instantaneously reverberate across the quantum fabric of reality. Okay. So and space and time are all interconnected. And we do talk about that too in other discussions. So once again, when we look at these dates, we can see. Did I skip some? No, we're going to go here. So from our perspective, these sequence of ripples will gradually unfold in a frame by frame fashion. That is linear time. That's how we see it. Okay. And the further back we move away from these events, the more it attenuates. So you get a big ripple at the eclipse point, and then you get a couple more ripples outward. And so by identifying these patterns, we can anticipate future events that may echo the energy of the eclipse, but maybe less intensely. All right. These patterns often provide insights or resolutions to lingering challenges, giving you a sense of clarity or direction. And so this eclipse is in Pisces. All these eclipse points are in Pisces. We've got Rahu in Pisces. We've got Neptune in Pisces. We have Chiron in Pisces. So we have all this energy in Pisces. What is Pisces? Pisces is the mystic. Pisces is universal love and oneness. It's connection to spirit. It's what we're all really working on here, right? So hopefully you guys understand that. Lori, I see you posted that link to timelines and portals. Thank you so much for doing that. I should be more prepared, but I appreciate you so much. Okay, so that is the eclipse points. Now, before I get into Venus and Mercury, I want to go into pi phi and the fine structure constant and talk to you about why these eclipse points are important, how they're calculated as well, because I think it will literally blow your mind, especially those of you that know about the Phoenix, follow archaics, and understand the orbital periodicity of the Phoenix phenomenon every 138 years. If you take the inverse of 138, you get the fine structure constant, and I will explain what that is, okay? So Patrice Morris says Chiron is in Pisces in her third house. So this whole season for the eclipse, all these eclipse points are going to be third house energy for you. How you think, how you learn, your siblings, your local environment, how you're programmed. Okay. You may also want to look at where Neptune is in your natal chart too, because Neptune rules Pisces. Jupiter can also rule Pisces. So where's your Jupiter and Neptune? Very Jupiter and Neptunian energy themes coming up in the next several months. So we're going to be expansive mystics, spiritual shamans. All right, let's get into pie. So pie, not apple pie, not pumpkin pie, not cheesecake pie, but pie. So it is basically a ratio of the circumference to the diameter of a circle. So if you take a perfect circle and you measure across the circle from one point to the other, crossing the center of the circle, and then you multiply that by pi, which is 3.141599 ad infinitum. They've calculated it out to a trillion digits. Then you will get the circumference. You can also calculate the area of a circle with pi. And there's so many other things you can do with pi. Pi is so important for understanding the world that we live in, for calculating nautical miles, for boat travel, flight travel, all these things. The number itself is super interesting. It's what they call an irrational number, meaning it cannot be expressed as a ratio of two integers. So it's not like 6 or 2 or 12. And it's also transcendental, which means it's not the root of any non-zero polynomial equation with rational coefficients. So what that means is that if you take pi and you try to take the square root of it, you're going to get an irrational number. You're going to get an imaginary number. And then the infinite decimal expansion. And so those of you that are fans of Decode Your Reality and Logan's work, he uses pi in his decoding and numerology. And what he'll do is he'll take a number that he finds and he'll find out where in the string of pi that is and add those digits up, and then he throws that back to the periodic table. So you can use pi for a lot of different things, not just for mathematics. So it's important to know about this particular constant. And that's what it means. It's basically a constant. It will always be 3.141, etc., etc. So why else is pi important? So again, you can calculate the area or the circumference of a circle, spheres, cylinders, and other shapes. So it also plays a role in the study of waves, oscillations, and circular motion. What are we doing here? We're studying frequency. We're studying energetics. And pi is a very important part of that. So trigonomic functions, when you get into not just the sine and cosine waves, but also those 3 and 4th dimensional waves that you get in conjugational calculus, pi is a big part of that. And it basically runs our modern world. Like we wouldn't be able to have this conversation right now if we didn't understand these basic constants. Now, it's also important in physics and engineering. The motion of pendulums. We've had discussions on pendulums, haven't we? The planets are like pendulums because they are frequencies themselves. Their orbital motion is a cycle per unit of time, which is a wave, which is an oscillation, and which is also a circular motion. It's so important in sound and light, in quantum mechanics, and the geometry of space-time in general. Once again, it's an infinite series. And then it's important in cosmology, the field equations, which I was just talking about, Einstein's field equations and general relativity. So I hope you guys understand that. Pi's super easy. Let's get into phi. Phi's a little different. Phi's got a little bit more of an etheric, beautiful quality. While pi is very beautiful, a circle is the perfect structure. One thing I did want to say about a circle is that it's nature's least energetic form to take. And so any oscillation that starts in the etheric field, if there's any polarity of a positive or a negative, the oscillation that starts creates a spherical or circular shape. It's the most simple shape, the least energetic shape, because the universe doesn't want to expend more energy than it has to. Okay, so that's the other beautiful thing about pi and what it actually describes in our universe. Okay, let's talk about phi, the golden ratio. This is also an irrational number. Its decimal places go on ad infinitum as well. And you can use it as well if you're doing decoding or numerology. I'm not going to get into the equations for it. That's just there for those of you math nerds. But it basically is, again, describes a ratio between how you can divide a line. So basically, if you divide a line in 2 segments such that the ratio of the whole line to the longer segment is equal to the ratio of the longer segment to the shorter segment. Don't worry about that. I'll show you what that means. But what's also really cool is that the Fibonacci sequence, which is basically just a number series, it's the number plus the next number equals the next number. So 1 plus 2 equals 3, 2 plus 3 equals 5, 3 plus 5 equals 8, 8 plus 13 equals 21, 21 plus 34 equals 50, etc., etc. And so once you get past 3, anytime you divide 8 by 5, 13 by 8, 21 by 13, you're going to approach the perfect number of 1.618 as the number of digits in the Fibonacci sequence approaches infinity. Okay, so I'll repeat that again. It's basically the number, the next number, you add those two together, that gives you the next number in the series, and you just keep on going. Once you get past 3, if you divide the number by the next number, you will get the golden ratio phi. And the closer you get to infinity, the more perfect that number gets. And so it's closely tied to pentagons, icosahedrons, as well as in the constructions of golden rectangles. The Vitruvian Man is one great example of it. If you were to look at spirals, this is where this connection comes into. So we've got the constant for the circle, which is pi, and now we have the constant for the perfect spiral, which is phi. And these two numbers are intricately linked in how our planets move through the sky and through our solar system. So why is phi important? I mean, there it is, Leonardo da Vinci. I swear this guy has been bugging me all week. So anything that looks symmetric or aesthetically pleasing will probably have phi somewhere in it. If you look at the spirals of shells, if you look at flowers, if you look at the proportions of the human body, the arrangement of leaves around stems, the patterns of seeds in a sunflower, and the spirals of galaxies exhibit this golden ratio. You can literally throw this spiral that you see here on the background on galaxies and see the connection and see the beautiful symmetry that's in our universe. So let's do something really cool with pi and phi. This is when you put two constants together, you get another constant. This one doesn't necessarily have a name, but it came to my attention and really connected a lot of dots for me when I started studying archaics as calendrics and the numbers that Jason Brashears uses to predict things over a long amount of time. Okay. When you take pi and phi and you multiply them together, you get this number that's very close to 5. And 5 is really important. For those of you that have seen some of my work on Venus, we talk about the number 5 a lot, and I'm going to go into that in just a minute. But if you divide a circle into 5 sections, you get 72 degrees, which forms that pentagon, and that's inherently linked to the golden ratio. So you get this circular spiral. And this is how everything moves at the microscopic fundamental Planck length. And it's also how it moves at the larger. So we can scale this up to the size of our universe and to the size of our solar system. So this connection leads to expressions that relate to pi, phi, and trigonomic functions, highlighting the interplay of these constants in geometric construction. So I have one more thing that I want to show you to tie all of this together, and then I can show you how I got the eclipse point dates for you and why I picked those dates in particular. All right, so actually, let me show you this first. So here is, I'm going to just digress for 1 second, so stay focused on these numbers. But here's the example that we're talking about when we think about pi and phi together. The retrograde Venus, that inferior conjunction, that star point that I showed you on this first graphic up here. This is one of these points in the greater 8-year cycle of Venus. Okay, so this is where it's happening. This is her Venus star point. And let me zoom out on this just a little bit so you can see these dates. The last star point we had was in Leo in 2023. We moved up here to Pisces. The next one will be in Virgo. The one after that will be in Taurus. The one after that will be in Sagittarius. And then we'll be back to Leo. So you can see from 23 to 31, this is an 8-year cycle, creating essentially a pentagram in the sky. And I'm going to show you that later in movement. And then this is just to show you exactly where we are right now in time in terms of Venus's cycle and her intensity. And like I said, if you go back and watch the Capricorn, I go into every step in Venus's cycle. We're about to get into it. We're about to get into the most dynamic part of her 20-month cycle. The next 4 months are big, okay? So just keep that in the back of your mind. We'll get back to Venus in a second. I will show you her dates, and then I'm going to show you some amazing calculations that will blow your mind. So the fine structure constant. This is 1/37. This is also a number that is derived from other constants that are put together. I'm not even going to show you that equation. It doesn't really matter. Just know that what it describes is the way that atoms and the field that they live in interact. And that constant describes how these particles emit light, how they move, and how they interact with other particles. And it is finely tuned for our universe. In other words, you're going to find this number everywhere. Any changes in this value will literally change everything that we see and understand in our universe. And so it's vital. It's like a little cosmic dial. It's tuned in. Our universe is tuned in right here at the fine structure constant. And it's one of the greater mysteries of physics. And I really believe that the work that Jason Breshears is doing with archaics and bringing out the orbital periodicity of this phoenix phenomenon every 138 years, this cosmic reset, speaks to this. And he says it too. He said it just the other day. The fine structure constant and the phoenix are exactly the same thing. And so here we are at the precipice of this great mystery of physics. Here we have pi. Here we have phi. Here's how we can put these two constants, the pi and phi, together with the fine structure constant, with what I like to call the phoenix constant, and derive some really, really interesting energies. Let me just show you Venus's dates real quick. We're going to throw that on there. And I want to just point out right off the bat that there's already things lining up with these eclipse points. Number one, you've got Venus stationing retrograde on the eclipse point right before the actual eclipse. So when you have two hits like this day is probably going to be very important for us. All right, but let me get back to these eclipse points. Let me show you how I got to this number and why I went through all of this with pi and phi with you. Okay, so here it is. If you take 138 and you divide that number, which is the inverse of the fine structure constant, approximately, okay? Things wobble in the universe, guys. There's nothing that's precise. There's always an error of margin. It's very, very difficult to accurately measure anything in this universe. That's why we have quantum mechanics, because it's all about probabilities. So just keep that in mind as I go through these numbers and don't be such a stickler, okay? But 138 divided by pi phi, which is 5.08, gives you a number 27.12, which is pretty darn close to the sidereal cycle of the moon. I'll repeat that again. It is really, really close to the sidereal cycle of the moon, meaning that every 27.1 days, this moon will be in Pisces at 19 degrees. Okay, so these are the calculated points using pi phi and the fine structure constant, giving you this effect that's been described in astrology for millennia. We've always known about these eclipse energies. We've always said, oh, well, that happened on the degree of the last eclipse, and da 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 da. And why is that? It's because of this. It's because these are critical degrees right now for this eclipse that is coming. Okay. Does that make sense, everybody? If you guys are enjoying this, yeah, give me a thumbs up. Thank you, Lady Spellbreaker. I appreciate the love and the affirmation. I'm hoping this is making sense and it's not too complicated. But this is where we're at. Oh, no, we don't want to do this right now. What is that? Remind me later. Okay. All right. I have more. Oh, yeah, guys, there's more. All right. So we've got the eclipse points. We've got the lunar and solar eclipse. We know these dates for Venus. We already know where these come from. Now we know where these dates come from. So let me just show you some cool things about Mercury real quick, and then I'll show you some more dates, and then we'll get back to the Venus energy and some more phi information that's literally going to blow your mind. All right, so if the moon wasn't enough to sort of make you go, huh, that's pretty cool, why don't we take Mercury's 87-day orbit around the sun? That's a known constant. And again, it can be plus or minus 3 or 4 days, depending on how wild Mercury's being and the solar cycle and other planetary influences. But if you multiply that number by phi, you get approximately 138. All these are plus or minus. And this was just so close that I couldn't just dismiss it. I couldn't just say, well, this is not right. I think it's exactly 140 or 135, but you're going to get ranges if you do these calculations with me, anywhere from 135 to 141. But it's so close. And because our measurements are so imprecise, I think it's something that's very important to point out. All right. So wow. Okay. There it is again. So we've got the sidereal cycle of the moon in days. times the pi phi, giving us the inverse of the fine structure constant. Then we've got the orbit of Mercury around the sun times phi gives us the inverse of the fine structure constant. And Mercury is going to be retrograde too during this whole time frame. I showed you that, right? Did I show you that? Oh no, let's put Mercury on this timeline. Oh my gosh, here's like 8 more dates we have to deal with. But now we can see things are really lining up, aren't we? Do y'all see this? So we've got this inferior conjunction with the sun, which is when Mercury is most intense at the exact moment of the solar eclipse. Wow. Okay, so all this is in Pisces, guys. Now, the superior conjunction of Mercury will be on February 9th. This is coming. This is in about 4 or 5 weeks. This is when you want to ask the universe. This is when you will get an answer. So ask and answer. Start small. Do something simple. Clear your mind. It's all about mindfulness. It's all about your thoughts. So as we move into this intense phase, keep the thoughts under control. Keep them, recognize what they are. Let the ones that don't resonate go. You might, if you're very sensitive and you can hear other people's thoughts, you may want to have a protection around you so that you, or have a way that you can discern other people's emotional and intense thoughts during this time frame so that you're not manifesting for them. Social media, or not social media, but mainstream or legacy media fasts. I always recommend those during Mercury retrogrades too, because oftentimes they will try to manifest things like storms, catastrophic events, wars, things like that. So if we as a collective individually can control our own thoughts during these really intense time frames, we should do a lot better, at least individually. So there's one alignment right there. And then the other alignment here. But notice that Mercury will be retrograde during Venus's retrograde, and that both Venus star point, which is when she is at her inferior conjunction, and Mercury's inferior conjunction are within days of one another. Big intense time frame right here. So, and this is not normal, you guys. This does not happen every year. So this is why I'm going into this and belaboring all of these points for you all, because I really, really want you to understand what went into putting this graphic together when I saw all this energy coming. In my own mind, it made sense to me, but to take this complex interplay of energies and put it into a format that helps you and that guides you through this time was really, really important to me. Whew. Okay. So hopefully you guys are doing good. We're going to go on. There's some more. Let's do Venus. So Venus has approximately a 225-day orbit around the sun. This is also a known constant. And if you divide that by phi, as opposed to multiplying it by phi, once again, you get approximately the inverse of the fine structure constant, or the Phoenix constant, 138. Now, if you take Venus's synodic cycle, which is what we observe from Earth, where she goes from one point in her cycle to the same point. So, for example, when she goes from inferior conjunction of the sun to the next inferior conjunction of the sun, that is 20 months. That is 584 days. If you divide that by phi, you get the circle, 360 degrees, which is pi. Okay? Hopefully some jaws are dropping right now. Hopefully you guys understand what I'm trying to convey to you, that the beauty of this mathematics, the beauty, the coding behind the universe, behind everything we see, goes so much deeper than just observing the sky and predicting what's going to happen in your life. There are predictable cycles that we can use to help ourselves, and they're all related to these constants. You guys want to keep going? I mean, I got more. Let's do this. So Mars's year around the sun is 687 days. And if we take pi and phi, multiply those together, get that 5.08 number, and we divide the days by that number, once again, we get the inverse of the fine structure constant, which is the Phoenix constant, 138. So here it is. Like, all of our planets are aligning to this amazing structure, to this amazing coding. It gets even better. I'm gonna keep going. Jupiter is, also part of this. If you square Jupiter's yearly orbit, takes 11.86 years for Jupiter to orbit around the sun. If you square that, you get approximately 138. Okay? Yeah, wow. All right, yeah, and we didn't even need pi or phi for this because Jupiter is the king of our solar system, the king of all planets. Rules the realm right now, right? Saturn's a little weird. Saturn's the old ruler. Saturn can flesh out another interesting number that is related to a longer cycle that the Mayans were watching. I'm not going to belabor this too much, but there's also some interesting geometry here. 10,800 is the days. That also relates to 360, which is the circle. Um, so that's pretty cool. But Saturn is kind of an oddball, kind of the limiting factor. It's Saturn is the ring around us. It's the Dyson sphere uh, holding us in. And the relationship between this and this with the moon and Saturn really speaks to that connection that David Icke has made to the moon and Saturn, the Saturn moon matrix. So if you guys don't know what that is, do look that up because when you go back and listen to this presentation again, this might make more sense to you. But basically what he says is that Saturn is transmitting a frequency and the rings around Saturn are the ripples of that frequency and that our moon picks it up as kind of a dish or a relay station and transmits the Maya over planet Earth, transmits the illusion over us. So that's very profound. Like whenever I think about that and then I saw these numbers, it really clicked for me. Once we get out beyond Saturn's orbit, things start to repeat because Uranus's orbit is 84 years and Uranus is a higher octave of Mercury in astrology. And so there if you take it up a degree, level it up, take it to the next level, days to years, Uranus is 84 years, you multiply that by 5, you get approximately 138. According to the Titius Bode law, Neptune is not supposed to be in our solar system, so Neptune's numbers really don't make sense, and neither does Pluto. So our solar system is definitely a hodgepodge of um, planets that came together around a common sun. Okay, so I hope that blew your mind as much as it blew mine when I was actually making all of these calculations. It was pretty intense for me. When I found this out, I stalked Jason Breshears and I said, "Dude, I need to talk to you about astrology, astronomy, and the nature of our universe, and show you this." And so I did present this material on RKX back in September. It's a little bit more refined in this presentation, so I thought it'd be nice to revisit it again, especially with all this stuff coming up and why March is so important. Because I want to add one more layer to our timeline of events that are coming up. But we need to really understand this Fibonacci sequence, okay? Again, I described it. It's pretty straightforward to get the next number. These are the numbers. 5, 8, and 13 are important for Venus. And anytime we're going to talk about Venus, I'm going to show you this video because I need you all to see what's going on here. So we're going to play this. Orbiting the sun here. This is the Earth in the middle, and the sun is going around because we're standing on Earth, so this is what we see. Whenever Venus does this little loop here, this is retrograde, so this will be March, and then it'll swoop around again. And those of you that have followed me, you've seen this video hundreds of times with me, but it's always so beautiful. It just really, really amazes me that you can see the numbers in the mathematics, but now you see it in motion. And once we do this last retrograde loop, you're going to see a five-pointed star here. This five-pointed star takes 8 years on Earth to complete. To go from Pisces Venus star point back to another Pisces Venus star point takes 8 years. And we'll have the Virgo and the Taurus and the Sagittarius and the what's the other star point? We'll have all these star points mapped out. So we have this beautiful pentagram here. 8 Earth years to do it. Venus will orbit the sun 13 times. So you have 5, you have 8, and you have 13. Again, there's those special numbers. They're those Fibonacci numbers that we just cannot seem to get away from. The other cool thing is that 144 is the 13th number of the Fibonacci sequence, and we all know how important 144 is. It just creates this beauty and this symmetry in our universe, and we are about to energetically go through that in a very temporal way. So, guys, we're almost to the end of this. I took the liberty of calculating using the Fibonacci sequence so basically what I did is I took the Venus star point, which is March 22nd, and I went out in time forward and backward 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days on each side, 8 days on each side of it, 13 days on each side of it, 21, 34, 55. I went out to about 89 days because that's as far as the the graphic I created would go before it looked way too small. But you can keep going. I mean, you can take these numbers out to the entire Venus cycle if you wanted to. This particular number line goes from December 24th to June 25th. But the entire cycle of Venus goes from June 4th of 24 all the way to January of 2026. So this is just the peak area of the peak time frame of Venus's cycle. And so I pulled these Fibonacci numbers out for you. I put them above and below the number line so that you could see how if you were to draw a spiral, a Fibonacci spiral, it would hit these days. We could go around it and it creates almost like this vortex. All right, so let's put some dates on those numbers. Here we have right in the middle. I pulled these out a little bit because you can't put these numbers basically just that week, those 2 weeks right around the Venus star point and the eclipse. Those are your dates, y'all. It's essentially from March 8th to April 4th. That month is going to be off the chain. So the 89th day away from this Venus star point was Christmas. Mercury also had a maximum western elongation on the 25th. Then we had this sort of liminal space, right, between the solstice and right around now, where we're in between eclipses. And so there's this deep, and the sun's transiting through Ophiuchus and Scorpio, through the galactic center. We have the solstice, where we have the lowest point of the sun in the sky for the northern hemisphere. Just a lot of energetic shifts right around now. And now we're entering into a completely new phase. But the final thing that I wanted to do with this was to show you where some of these Fibonacci numbers line up with not only our eclipse points, but also the known inflection points in both Mercury and Venus's cycles, since they're both confluencing on each other. All right, so here they are, guys. So the eclipse point, the first eclipse point for this coming eclipse is tomorrow. But the next date we want to look for is March 1st. And look at this. I want you to look at this beautiful symmetry right here. The 21st day away from our Venus star point, Venus goes retrograde. 21st day after, Venus goes direct. And that happens to be a Fibonacci number. So we went 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. And 21 on either side is when Venus stations retrograde and when Venus stations direct. So I think that's really, really incredible. So those are some dates you want to watch. The other thing that's lining up on this is the eclipse point right before the eclipse. So 27 days before the eclipse, that number that we derived from taking pi and phi and dividing it by the inverse of the fine structure constant, giving us this date, aligns with one of Venus's Fibonacci numbers, the day she goes retrograde as well. So that's a big day right there. And we can't forget our lunar eclipse. the moon will be in Virgo on the lunar eclipse, not in Pisces. So that's why I didn't exactly put a tick mark here, but for the 14th, Mercury goes retrograde. So when we have our lunar eclipse, which is a full moon, this is going to be the peak of this energy. So not only are we having these two retrograde planets bringing all this energy towards us as we approach an eclipse, but we're going to have a lunar eclipse the moment Mercury stations retrograde. Okay, and then when Mercury, let's see, then on the solar eclipse is when Mercury is at the inferior conjunction with the sun, the peak of Mercury's retrograde. Okay, so we have an eclipse, the peak of these two retrogrades, in between these two Fibonacci numbers while Venus is retrograde. I just think this is incredible, you guys. I hope this is utterly blowing your mind as well. So the first eclipse point after the eclipse, the solar eclipse, is another Fibonacci number, 34. So April 24th is going to be an important day. And then the last one, the last eclipse point for this particular eclipse is 89, which is another Fibonacci number sequence. And that's on June 16th. Okay, so these are your important dates, guys. That is my basically my presentation. What I'll do is stop sharing and I'll open it up for questions, clarification. You guys just want to talk for a little bit. I'm cool with that too. But that was pretty cool. So what do you guys think about that? Let's see. Let's look at some of your comments. Got to decide which computer I want to do it on. All right, let's see. How many do we have here? 50. Awesome. All right, Squirrel Sniper. Hi. Thanks for coming. Ragnarok Rider. Hello. Thanks for coming. All right. Fellow Traveler. Hello. Ultimus, lots of math and numbers, but in the end, this will be so worth it. Well, hopefully you guys understood it. Hopefully it wasn't too complex. It doesn't have to be. I just wanted to let you know that, when I say March is going to be intense, I'm not trying to get clicks. I'm just trying to show you that, yeah, it's going to be intense. There's some mathematical, astronomical, and astrological reasons for that. Let's see. Ducko Berkovich, hi. I'm very pleased to be here, this fortunate gathering. Thank you, Ducko. All right, let's see. Brenda's sun is conjunct Mercury in oh my gosh, Brenda. Wow. If you need to chat, if you need someone to talk to, shoulder to cry on, let me know. All right, let's see. Jig, I'm late, but caught your attention to us non-mathers. Rosella says, great presentation. Thank you for sharing. Oh, good. I'm so glad you guys are getting it. Moonstar Reading says, have you heard the Fibonacci sequence is corrupted and that we should be going to the crystalline grid? I mean, okay. I don't know what that means. I mean, to me, math can't really be corrupted. That's one of the basic fundamentals of our universe. Moonstar, the thing about math is that it's really, really important. We kind of brush it off and we don't like doing it because we have to show our work and the math teacher is really mean and math problems are hard. And if you don't get it, you feel bad about yourself. But ultimately, when you use math, what happens is you can observe things happening around you in nature. So for example, if I want to take this pen and I want to drop it and I want to measure the rate of change of speed from my hand to my lap, I can do that because of math. And then let's say I observe something else, maybe something electronic happening over there, and I've got these electronic equations that I can apply. These constants provide a way to link movement and electronics to create a whole other set of equations that describe a phenomenon that we may or may not have observed yet. And if it does indeed describe a phenomenon that we have not observed, then it allows us to set up experiments so that we can see if it's a real phenomenon. And in fact, we have discovered phenomenon because of math. So, I don't know. I love the idea of the crystalline grid. I'm not knocking it, but I wouldn't say that it's corrupt. I would say that if you approach math purely as a way to describe relationships between what we see in nature, that it's going to serve you better than saying it's corrupted. And I'm not even sure how it could be corrupted. It's really one of the most beautiful sequences that we have. Brian Hardy says, sounds like March is going to be intense. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. Magical March, in like a lion and out like a lamb. Yo Yo to the World says, hearty insights. Wow, wow. Thank you for your gift, love, joy. Thank you. Thank you. Love, joy. Back to you. Brian Hardy says, math can't be corrupted unless you're Terrence Howard. Yeah. Yeah, that guy. I actually feel kind of sorry for him. When you get that famous and that rich, there aren't a lot of people around you that are going to say, "Can you stop doing that?" You know what I mean? It's hard. Like, if you're super wealthy and you got a lot of sycophants around you and famous, and you start talking some kind of gibberish, even if they don't like, they're not gonna say anything to you, because a lot of times, and I've heard things about Terrence Howard. I'm not gonna, besmirch his name or anything, but sometimes you can't even get through to these people. They have tempers, or they have personalities that just aren't amenable to being, to have discussions to change what it is that they believe. Melanie, hi from Australia. My grandchild is due April 9th. Oh, awesome. Blessings. That's so wonderful. I delivered 3 babies yesterday. I was actually lurking in the decode chat. Logan was live last night. He did another marathon live, and I had to go deliver a baby while I was listening. So fun. Loma said, got here late, we'll watch later. Yeah, you guys really may want to watch this once or twice, and then keep, screenshot that calendar for yourself. And I've already put it on my own calendar. Terrence is silly. Yeah. I like I said, I feel sorry for him. I don't have a mean thing to say about him, but it's tough, because when those famous people come out and start talking, a lot of people that follow them and that love them are going to kind of believe what they say, and kind of go along with it, which is tough. What did what did Jason call his people? Barf parrots. That was hilarious. So cool, guys. Yeah. So, are you guys blown away? Do you have any questions about the presentation itself? Anybody have anything they want to think about? Cool, cool. Good, good. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to sign off here in a little bit, but what's coming next week is the Wolf full moon. Don't forget, tomorrow is your first eclipse point. So just kind of monitor your own energies, look at your own chart, see where 19 degrees Pisces is for you. And Melanie asks, oh, wow, you're a midwife. Well, sort of. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist. So I actually did the traditional route for medical school, but I wasn't a traditional student. I didn't start medical school until I was 30 years old. I had a few other jobs and careers before I decided that medicine was my calling. Um, and so I went back to school and studied, and then got in, and I did 4 years of medical school in North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And then I did 4 years of residency in Savannah, Georgia, in obstetrics and gynecology. And then I moved to where I am now, and did private practice for about 12 years. Loved it, loved my patients, but unfortunately, the state of medicine these days is not conducive to being someone's doctor. You basically are going to be owned by somebody and you're going to do what the corporations tell you. And it got too expensive for me to see and to know my patients. I mean, yes, I could have had a high volume practice and done well, but the amount of people I would have had to pull through there, I wouldn't have been able to get to know them very well. And I didn't like that. It just felt disconnected for me. I felt like I was just doing a job. And so I switched to shift work at the hospital where I basically go for a 24-hour shift. I show up at 8, I leave at 8, and I'm the goalie for labor and delivery, so and the ER. So if any women come in distress, pregnant or otherwise, I'm there to take care of them. And it's actually a lot more interesting, I find. It's a little bit less sort of bread and butter and the normal complaints where everybody's normal, but they're just scared. It's really kind of life or death stuff, which is much more interesting and what I went into it to do to help people and to save lives. And there are a lot of beautiful moments. So I still do very much enjoy it. It's definitely a different kind of lifestyle because before I was, 9 to 5, and then I would do call about every 3 or 4 days a month. Now I only do the call part of it. So I'll do 24-hour shifts about 7 times a month. And the rest of the time I'm doing this. I'm downloading and channeling knowledge and teaching you guys, doing astrological readings, philosophizing, creating, and just being a student of the universe. So, so yeah, that's basically my story. For those of you that are new and don't know, that's why I'm a physician astrologer. Most of you may not know this, but prior to 1650, if you wanted to be a physician, you actually had to study and know astrology first. It was a prerequisite to medical school. So all the great physicians and philosophers and astronomers were also astrologers. And when I found that out, I was literally ecstatic. And it was Hippocrates who said, any physician that does not know astrology should not consider himself a physician. So I love that. And you would be surprised how many patients actually think it's awesome that I'm also an astrologer. And I also have access to birth dates and times. And so anytime a baby's born, I mentally note it in my head, okay, the sun's in Aquarius, the sun's in Sagittarius, the moon's in Aquarius, the rising sign is, Taurus or whatever. And I'll do that. Whenever I see somebody with an astrology tattoo though, I leave them alone only because, I know tropical is so prevalent and a lot of people go by their sign rather than their constellation. But yeah, I do, I have a service where I will do a baby life path journey. So if you have a new baby in your life and you want to get the healer's cosmic journey read for your baby, or the baby, I can do that. It's a recorded reading. That is on my website if y'all are interested. So, and I don't get a lot of takers on that one. I don't know why, but it's a great service, and I think it's really neat. If you have a child in your life, you want to know their astrology, you want to know their code. That's what they did forever before the recent age of enlightenment and the age of reason. They would literally run to an astrologer and get their baby's astrology done. So yeah, that's my story. That's what I'm doing. Um, Eventually, I would like to ease out of medicine even a little bit more and maybe do 1 or 3 shifts a month and travel and do this kind of work wherever I am. So we'll see how that goes. But now we're just focusing on getting stellar foundations on the ground. The inaugural group is ready to go. We've got 11. I'm super excited. Hopefully, you guys are signing up for your Facebook. You all will get links to download your software, and we will hit the ground running on the 20th. I will have Uma Stellar there to help you guys get set up on your software. So if you dive into it and it's not making any sense, don't worry about it. We'll get you set up. You'll be able to use it like a pro before we're done with you. Cool. Anybody else want a question? Have any questions about me? I'm happy to answer. I mean, I'm an open book. Brian Hardy says, if I'm ever expecting to have a child of my own, I would request you deliver them. Oh, thank you. It really is a beautiful experience. Really, really is. I swear, sometimes when I'm waiting for them, the word obstetrics means to stand by. And so when I'm, just kind of hanging out, studying, waiting for a baby to come, there is literally an energetic shift. It's associated with moons and tides. And if I'm feeling kind of nappy or sleepy, I know the babies are coming. it's just a weird thing. It's like a diurnal thing. It has to do with our cortisol and melatonin secretion. And you can feel it in your own body, like when you get nappy. It never fails. I'll start to fall asleep and then they'll call me and the baby will be ready. Oh, Lady Spellbreaker. Yes, you asked an amazing question. Does Pluto-Mars opposition affect this eclipse? I didn't even go into the other energies. Like we have Mars going in retrograde and will be direct on the 23rd of February. So you know what? Let's go back in there and look at some of that. Because I was going to do that, but I ran out of time and I wanted to not have bedhead for this presentation. So let me go back in there. Let's look at our timeline. And I'll probably be bringing this timeline up in future presentations too, because we're going to have to follow this very closely. All right, so let's see. Mars is retrograde until about the 23rd. So yeah, between these two eclipse points, right around that. So yeah, it'll be Mars going direct and then Venus going retrograde, literally within days of each other, within a week. And Mars and Pluto in opposition. You know what? I'm going to pull a chart real quick because I want y'all to, I want to talk about this Pluto opposition. Let's do this. Let me stop sharing for a second. I was going to pull up my software, but I didn't want you to see other people's charts. Let's do this real quick. Load transits. View chart. Okay. All right, I'm going to go back to right now. And then I'll show you my screen. Okay. All right. Oh my gosh. Share screen, share screen, share screen, share screen. Hide. Okay. So here it is. This is that Pluto-Mars opposition that Lady Spellbreaker was talking about. Whenever this happened, gosh, last year, 23, I want to say, right around May, there was a Mars-Pluto opposition. And at that point, Mars and Pluto were square the lunar nodes. And the last time this happened was the last time that I got like so physically ill, I thought I was going to die. I was literally like sick with this weird stomach bug for about 10 days. And I could barely drink. The only thing I ate was like dried English muffins. I think I lost like 10 pounds, which I totally didn't need to lose. But I found it very interesting that I also got sick a couple days ago when this was perfecting. So I feel like this is a very purging energy. Did I share my screen? I did, didn't I? Yeah. I feel like this is a very purging energy. I don't know if you guys experienced this, but what happened here for me, at least the way I interpreted it, was that there was this cusp here between Cancer and Gemini, and this cusp between Sagittarius and Capricorn. And this is all four elements. This is air, water, fire, and earth. And while I was in that sickness last year in 2023, when you fast, you can sometimes go into a visionary state. And that's precisely what happened to me. And I had this amazing vision of all four of the elements. It was like the ocean and a volcano and the wind, hurricane. And the message to me was that there is this purging energy, especially because it was so square to the nodes. And I feel like because this energy is hitting again and because I got ill again, that it almost feels like an upgrade. Because the way the illness hit me is there was this wave of heat, the fever. It can sometimes affect your brain a little bit, but these waves of heat that move up and out and through you. And that changes you. That changes your DNA. That changes your perspective. That changes your habits. It's a pattern break. Getting sick is a pattern break, right? So that's how I see these two. I can see them personally as a purging, a chance to break pattern, a chance to do what's surgically necessary to cut things away from you that are no longer serving you. So that is why this is really, really important. Mars will transit back into this cuspy area in about 2 weeks. So we're going to be once again at the four corners of these elements. So there's this elemental sort of reorganization that I feel is very important to this opposition, if that makes any sense. All right. What else are we talking about? Let's see. Do you have experience with a water birth? I do. It was it was actually really hilarious. The thing is women that are gonna do that, like, they're gonna birth at home and water birth, they don't really need an obstetrician. Like I said, the word means to stand by, okay? So, I view my job as to be there in case something goes wrong, because birth is a natural process in my opinion. Now, are there things that I would like to have handy when a laboring woman is in my care? Yes. I would like her to have IV access because there's medicines that I can use very fast to save her life. That's pretty much the only thing. Like, if she wants to move around, if she wants to, you know, not use medicine, that's fine. Um, if she wants to kind of push and, however she wants to, like, whatever, all that's totally fine with me. But a lot of times women can't do that. Y'all women are strong, but a lot of y'all are wimps. A lot of y'all are wimps. About 80% of you, probably more than that, are gonna go, "Oh, hell no, give me that medicine." And that changes things. That changes things for you. Because when we give you medicine, you are now, in a more of a sensitive state and a more vulnerable state. And so we do have to sort of kind of bring you in a little bit and take care of you. If I'm giving you fentanyl, I am not gonna let you wander down the halls. You're gonna be in your bed or near the nurse while you're laboring on fentanyl. If you have an epidural, you're not walking anywhere, so you're gonna need, interventions to keep you, safe and healthy while you're laboring. But those things aside, those of you that are warriors and that are really in tap with your birth shaman and your kundalini energy, you're gonna have a great time during birth. And a water birth is an awesome way to have a baby. Now, at my hospital, we don't have bathtubs, but there are people that, if they know the hospital administration, they let them bring in these inflatable tubs, and I have done that twice. The the second time, the the baby just came, like, she was 5 centimeters, and then they called me and said, "The baby's out," and so I ran to the room, and the poor nurse was actually in the tub with the patient, like, in her scrubs and had the baby by the ankle. So yeah, I've seen a water birth. They're really quite beautiful and fun. So, but as a standard in my hospital, no, we don't do that. Christina Cardoza says, "When you're sleepy, can it be a message from the spirit world?" Yeah, I think that's the theta state. That's that out that between those right around at 8 hertz is when you're sleepy, when you're falling asleep, but you're still aware. That's absolutely where you can connect with spirit. That's where I do it. I actually love to be in that state. I try to do that at least once a day. I call it God mode, and I just let my thoughts go, and then I imagine. Yes, purging energy is a good word. Lady Spellbreaker says, "Thank you." Oh, Brian, you're asking me medical questions. The medications that we use in labor and delivery are safe for the baby. Fentanyl, yeah, it does affect the baby, but we use such a small amount, and we don't give it to them right before the baby's born. So if you're like 8 or 9 centimeters, you're not gonna get fentanyl. We basically refuse it. But we'll usually do that first before we do the epidural because it's the least invasive thing. No, it's okay. It's okay, Brian. You're good. Yeah. I mean, I guess I can answer those questions, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. I'm gonna sign off. We have some dinner coming, and I need to get some rest because I have one more shift tomorrow. And then, I was gonna tell you guys about next week. Next week, we're gonna talk about the full moon. It's a wolf moon, and I'm going to attempt another decode. on that. So stay tuned for that. We're going to see how that goes. But I hope you all have a fantastic week. And I appreciate y'all so much for being here and putting up with the math. And I just love y'all so much. So I thank you. And we'll talk again soon, guys. Bye.